Okay, Tariff Boy comes out and tells us all about how these horrible Canadians, those dirty guys that just hate us, they just hate us. And they're charging these massive tariffs on dairy goods. Okay, watch this.
Canada, by the way, imposes a 250 to 300% tariff on many of our dairy products. They do the first can of milk. They do the first little carton of milk at a very low price, but after that it gets bad, and then it gets up to 275, 300%. So when they're figuring what's Canada charging, they say, oh, about 2%, 3%. But take a look at what happens down the road. When you look a little bit, it's not a pretty picture, and we don't like it, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our farmers. It's not fair to our country.
Okay, this thing, he sent a couple of tins at no tariff, and then there's a whole bunch of tariff. Well, it's really a large amount. They allow an awful lot amount to come into their country before there's any high tariffs on it. And in fact, Canada takes the most of our dairy products that are exported, and Mexico takes the second most. So it's a pretty high number. But you have to understand, farmers, and we do this too, I'll talk to you a little bit more about this later, but farmers invest huge amounts of money, at least to them certainly, in raising cows to produce milk. I mean, this is not some simple operation that you can just turn on and turn off. It's kind of like having a horse. You got to feed the horse every damn day, whether you use him or not. And you can't do that with a cow. A cow has to be impregnated, have a calf, and then she starts producing milk. And you can stop. If you stop, they'll stop producing milk. And this is a really big thing with these guys. I'm not envious of dairy farmers at all. But they have to keep these animals, you keep moving and getting them pregnant, getting them to produce milk again. And they can produce, quite a bit of milk. But the thing is, if you say, okay, the price is too low for you to make any sort of profit, all you can do is lose. What do? You drop out. And you're not there. 6 months later, they need you to produce milk. And you can't do it. It doesn't happen in a day. You got to impregnate the cows, and then they start producing milk. The whole thing is it's the farmer's dilemma. And prices are not always good. And they do want to maintain prices for their people. We do this too. I've seen a lot of fair traded, we'll call it, milk, where they get a certain amount for it, that's it. And you're not getting anything else. That's in the U.S. So Canada does it too. So what they do, take a look at this chart, and you can kind of see there's all these dairy products in there. And they never go over the level where the tariffs would go way up. Duh, kind of smart, We sell what we can sell to Canada, and they stop at a certain point that they've determined that can keep their cattle moving, their cattle producing milk. You can say, well, that's unfair and all that, but we do it all the time too. I was involved in small grains in Washington State. We were subsidized big time. If you couldn't sell it at a basic price, you got paid by the government for it. That's the kind of stuff that went to USAID and stuff like that. I can remember back a long time ago in the 70s when our small grain production was huge, and we made way more than we could sell. So the government bought all of it. And we had these gigantic piles of grain just sitting there. The government was footing the bill on this because we were producing way more than we could sell. So, but they didn't want the farmers to shut down, because if you shut down, you can't start up again right away. It takes a minimum year to start up for a small grain farmer to get up going again, if that. He may not want to. He may find out it's a lot easier to go to town and get a job. So we all do this, and Canada's doing it too. And it's complicated the way it's set up and all that sort of stuff, but it works. And we haven't had a problem with it. Nobody here is making huge complaints about this. Now, well, one guy, the Trump guy, that, you know, he thinks he's going to make everybody give him a whole bunch of money for whatever the heck. He's looking at these things on the surface. He's not paying any attention to how it really works. And he's trying to sell you a bill of goods, as he usually does. They're charging us 250, 300, 400,000% more just to be mean to us. And we're getting screwed. We're going to find out as this tariff thing goes along that we were not getting screwed. That we were working with other countries to get some sort of trade agreements that actually worked. And I'll call it done on this one.